find the tomb of Alexander is the dream of every archaeologist. It's the Holy Grail.
In 1922, a sealed stone door in Egypt's Valley of the Kings was cracked open for the first time in 3 millennia. The official story was gold, glory, and a civilization's secrets finally revealed. But something was horribly wrong inside. The tomb was tiny. The burial goods did not fit, and the boy king had never belonged here. Then, as Carter and his team breathed that ancient air, deaths began to stalk the living. Was it a curse, or something far worse? The real danger lay not in legend, but in what they actually unleashed. It made the next moments inside that chamber a deadly puzzle scientists still struggle to solve. Howard Carter pressed his face to the rough limestone, sweat stinging his eyes as he chipped away at the plaster. The air was thick with dust, every breath sharp and dry. He worked by lamplight, hands trembling, knowing that only a few inches separated him from a world untouched for 3,000 years. The final fragment gave way with a dull crack. Carter paused, heart pounding, and reached for a slender candle. He lit it, shielding the flame with his palm, and held it inside the tiny hole. Warm, stale air rushed out, carrying the scent of resin, ancient linen, and something else, something sour and metallic, like the breath of a sealed crypt. The candle flickered. For a second, Carter wondered if the air would snuff it out, or if something worse might happen. Behind him, Lord Carnarvon whispered, "Can you see anything?" Carter's eyes adjusted. Shapes swam out of the darkness, gilded animals, tangled chariot wheels, the glint of a gold half buried in dust. "Yes," he breathed. "Wonderful things." But the room beyond was no grand hall. It pressed in on all sides, crowded with objects piled haphazardly, as if time itself had been crammed into a storeroom and left to rot. Carter's lungs burned with every inhale. The silence was absolute, broken only by the hiss of his own breath. In that moment, the weight of centuries settled over him. Every sense screamed that he was trespassing somewhere forbidden. He blinked, eyes watering, and leaned closer, trying to make sense of the chaos beyond the breach. The world outside faded. There was only the tomb, the dust, and the first breath of air that no living soul was ever meant to taste. Gold gleamed from every corner, but nothing fit together as it should. The sarcophagus barely squeezed into the cramped chamber, wedged so tightly that it scraped the walls. Carter's measuring tape showed the stone box was just a hair too long for the room. Whoever planned this burial had run out of time or options, or both. The most telling clue lay in the coffins themselves. Tutankhamun's body rested inside 3 nested coffins, each shaped like the god Osiris. But the middle coffin was different. Its face, longer and more angular, did not match the youthful features of the others. The gold surface bore subtle traces of erased inscriptions, and under the layers, Carter's team made out the ghost of another royal name, Nefer-Neferuaten, an enigmatic ruler lost to history, possibly a woman who held the throne for a brief, turbulent moment. The original name had been hastily scraped away and replaced with Tutankhamun's. Even the symbols of kingship were altered, as if the coffin itself was pressed into service for a new master. The improvisation did not stop there. The coffin's feet, modeled as Osiris's toes, protruded so far that the lid of the stone sarcophagus could not close. Ancient undertakers simply sawed them off. Fragments of the god's toes still lay at the bottom, a silent record of the rush and confusion. The burial chamber felt less like a royal resting place and more like a storeroom assembled in panic. Furniture and treasures were jammed in wherever they fit. Some shrines were patched or repainted, their gold leaf uneven. Even the jewelry bore signs of reworking, with old cartouches chiseled out and new ones hammered in. Every artifact whispered of a burial cobbled together from whatever could be found. In the middle of all this, the presence of a vanished ruler lingered, a reminder that the boy king's final journey was anything but ordinary. Tutankhamun was born into a world of gold and ceremony, but his body betrayed him from the start, DNA analysis reveals that his parents were brother and sister, an arrangement meant to keep royal blood pure, but one that left the boy king with a legacy of weakness. His left foot twisted inward, bones brittle and riddled with disease. Modern scans show necrosis eating away at the bones of his foot, and his spine curving in a way that would have made every step a struggle. More than 130 walking sticks and staffs were buried with him, many worn down at the tip from daily use. For a teenager, that is less a symbol of power than a record of pain. The evidence of illness runs deeper. Traces of malaria parasites linger in his mummified flesh, a disease that would have battered his immune system and left him vulnerable to even the smallest wound. In the last weeks of his life, Tutankhamun suffered a catastrophic fracture to his left thigh. The break was fresh, with no sign of healing, and embalming resin seeped into the wound. Infection would have taken hold quickly, overwhelming a body already weakened by years of chronic illness. When the end came, there was no time for royal preparations. The embalmers found themselves with a decomposing body, a half-finished tomb, and a set of burial goods borrowed from forgotten rulers. The heart, sacred to Egyptian beliefs, was missing, replaced by a handful of amulets. The rush and confusion that shaped his burial began with a sickly boy who never stood a chance against the weight of his own bloodline. Chris Naunton, an Egyptologist with a taste for forensic puzzles, set out to answer a question that had haunted the field for decades. Why did Tutankhamun's mummy show signs of being burned? Using CT scans and microscopic analysis, Naunton's team discovered that parts of the king's flesh were carbonized, blackened as if exposed to temperatures over 200 degrees Celsius. Yet there was no evidence of fire damage anywhere else in the tomb. The answer lay in the embalming process itself. Ancient morticians had poured generous amounts of resin and oil over the linen-wrapped body, sealing it in layer after layer. Inside the airtight coffin, these oils began to react with the linen, a slow chemical chain reaction that released heat. In laboratory simulations, the same mixture of oils and wrappings reached searing temperatures in a matter of hours, enough to cook flesh in a sealed space. What looked like the work of a curse was chemistry, hidden in the darkness of the coffin, waiting to be revealed 3,000 years later. Naunton's findings rewrote the story of Tutankhamun's afterlife. The real danger was not supernatural. It was built into the burial itself. In February 1923, Lord Carnarvon signed away the story of Tutankhamun's tomb to The Times of London. The deal was simple: exclusive rights to every detail, every photograph, every official word from the excavation. For rival newspapers, this meant locked doors and second-hand scraps. Shut out of the tomb, they turned to something far more profitable than facts: fear. American and French tabloids, hungry for headlines, began weaving tales of supernatural revenge. Editors spun Carnarvon's sudden death from blood poisoning into a serial drama. Mysterious forces, ancient warnings. Even the dimming of Cairo's lights at the moment he died, each rumor found its way into print. The Times, bound by its contract, stuck to careful dispatches. But everywhere else, the curse took on a life of its own. Every cough, every stumble, every unlucky twist in the lives of those connected to the tomb became fresh proof of a pharaoh's wrath. The real curse wasn't carved in stone. It was printed in bold type, sold by the column inch, and fed to a world ready to believe that some secrets should stay buried. Modern science has little patience for curses. Epidemiologists took a hard look at the numbers. 44 Westerners entered Tutankhamun's tomb in the early 1920s. Their average lifespan after exposure was nearly 70 years, 4 years longer than their British peers at home. The supposed wave of death turns out to be an illusion, fueled by headlines and selective memory. Howard Carter, the man who spent more time in the tomb than anyone, died quietly at 64, decades after the discovery. today, the real dangers are different. In 2014, the beard of Tutankhamun's golden mask snapped off during cleaning at the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. Staff glued it back with epoxy, leaving a visible scar. The world reacted with outrage, proof that our reverence for these relics has not faded, but our sense of responsibility has grown sharper. Blockbuster exhibitions still draw crowds from every continent, and the mask remains a symbol of both wonder and warning. The legacy of Tutankhamun is measured now not in curses, but in the care and the carelessness with which we treat the past. Today, science shows that the real dangers sealed in ancient tombs are chemical, not supernatural. Every excavation risks exposing deadly pathogens and toxins hidden for millennia. As we keep searching the past for answers, we are also reminded. Some mysteries are meant to be respected, not just solved.